The distress signal came like a whisper in the void, barely audible against the endless hum of the galactic network. Most civilizations ignored it. They had learned long ago that uncharted worlds were often more trouble than they were worth. Colonies on dangerous planets rarely lasted more than a few cycles before succumbing to nature, disease, or the creatures that called those worlds home. So when the signal pulsed across the communication channels, it was met with silence. No one answered, no one cared, no one but Earth's fleet. Lieutenant Commander Mara Hensley leaned back in her seat on the bridge of the starship Fortitude. Her eyes were fixed on the screen that displayed the coordinates of the planet in distress. It was not marked on any standard charts. The system was new, raw, and dangerous. Most species would have passed by it, leaving the settlement to fend for itself. But humans, Earth's Deathworlders, as the galaxy had come to call them, did not leave others to die. "We should consider that," Hensley said quietly to her communications officer, a human named Jerk. "That silence is a signal in itself. They need help." "Someone has to go." "Then it's up to us," she said. "We'll go. That's what humans do. We don't wait for permission when people are in danger." Earth's Deathworlders had evolved in harsh conditions, trained to survive where others would perish. Their biology had been pushed to the limit, and their minds had been sharpened by necessity. The galaxy often underestimated them, and it paid dearly for it. As the ship accelerated toward the uncharted system, Hensley reviewed the data on the planet below. Temperature extremes, a poisonous atmosphere, and active seismic zones meant that conventional dropships would be useless. Most alien species would have abandoned any hope of landing safely, but Hensley smiled at the reports. This was exactly the kind of environment her crew thrived in. "Prepare the landing teams," she ordered. "We'll need to move fast. The settlers won't survive long under siege if the aliens are persistent." This was why humans were different. They did not flee from danger, they adapted to it. "Then we'll find out exactly what we're dealing with when we land," she said. "Suit up, everyone. This isn't going to be easy." The atmosphere was thick with toxins, swirling clouds of green and purple that glowed faintly under the light of the system's distant sun. The humans' environmental suits sealed them off completely, recycling oxygen, neutralizing toxins, and protecting against extreme temperatures. Where other species would suffocate or burn, they could move with agility and strength. The landing was rough. Turbulence tore at the ship as the planet's unstable atmosphere pushed back against its descent. Hensley gritted her teeth and guided the ship through the storms, her hands steady on the controls. The crew trusted her, and she trusted them. Each of them had been trained for this kind of challenge, and each of them carried the kind of instinct honed over generations of survival on hostile worlds. They were human, and that meant they were dangerous in ways the galaxy often overlooked. When the landing gear finally touched the ground, the crew erupted into action. Dropships extended from the hull, carrying specialized teams designed to secure perimeters, establish communication with the settlers, and assess threats. Hensley's own team was assigned to scout the surrounding terrain and confront the alien invaders that had driven the colony to send the distress signal. The first signs of the enemy were terrifying. The creatures moved like shadows, fast and coordinated. Their bodies were sleek, with exoskeletons that shimmered faintly under the stormlight. They attacked in swarms, their tactics instinctive and horrifyingly efficient. The settlers had no hope against such beings without the intervention of skilled fighters. The Deathworlders did not hesitate. They struck with precision, using the planet's hazards to their advantage. Hensley watched as her team lured a group of aliens into a narrow canyon. Lightning from the storms cracked across the sky, striking the metallic rocks and creating an impromptu trap. The humans anticipated the alien movement perfectly, pushing them into the natural barriers, cutting off escape routes, and neutralizing the threat. Every move was calculated, every strike deliberate. It was artistry born from survival. From a distance, other alien species observing the operation would have scoffed. Few would have believed that humans could succeed where they themselves would fail. The Deathworlders' reputation for surviving impossible worlds had spread through whispers and reports, but seeing it in action was something entirely different. They were fearless not because they did not feel fear, but because they had learned to control it. They were clever, not because they had superior technology, but because they understood adaptation better than any other species. As the battle raged, Hensley received a communication from the settlers. Their voices were filled with relief, gratitude, and awe. "We didn't think anyone would come," one of them said, voice trembling. "Everyone else ignored our signal." Toxic fogs were manipulated to create cover, unstable ground triggered to collapse under alien weight, and predatory fauna were carefully guided to intercept enemy movements. Every step was a lesson in survival and ingenuity. The aliens were strong and relentless, but the humans were stronger in ways the invaders could not anticipate. Hours passed, but the humans pressed on. Casualties were minimal, a testament to their training and resilience. The settlers watched from hidden shelters, amazed at the skill and bravery of their rescuers. The humans did not boast, did not seek reward. They acted because it was necessary, because leaving others to die was unacceptable. That was what made them different. That was what made them feared, respected, and sometimes underestimated. That was what made them human. Hensley finally gathered her team for a brief moment of rest, though the planet offered little in the way of comfort. The storm raged on, thunder rolling through jagged mountains, lightning illuminating the alien forest in fleeting flashes. She looked at the faces of her crew, each one determined, unbroken, and ready for what came next. They had survived impossible conditions before, and they would survive this too. The settlers' hope rested on them, but so did the example they set for the galaxy. Humans had arrived and no one else had. That alone would change how the stars saw them. "Keep moving," Hensley said, her voice calm but firm. "The aliens are clever, but we're cleverer. The settlers will survive because we are here. Remember that. Humanity doesn't turn away. We adapt, we fight, and we endure, always." And as the first group of aliens began to regroup for another attack, the humans were ready. They would not fail. They could not fail. The galaxy might have ignored the distress call, but Earth's Deathworlders never ignored anyone in need. As night fell on the alien world, the storm continued to rage, casting eerie shadows across jagged rocks and toxic forests. The humans moved silently, calculating every step, every strike, every decision. In the distance, the settlers dared to peek from their shelters, catching glimpses of figures moving with unmatched skill and resilience. They were humans, and they had come to save the day. Nothing else mattered. Not the storm, not the aliens, not the silence of the galaxy. The humans had arrived. And the galaxy would never forget it. The storm had not stopped, and the alien world seemed determined to test every human who had set foot upon it. Mara Hensley's team moved carefully through the dense, toxic forest that stretched for miles in every direction. Each step was calculated. One wrong move could mean death. The air was thick with spores, the ground unstable, and the trees themselves seemed alive, their limbs moving with an eerie, unpredictable sway. But the humans were not afraid. They had trained for environments like this, worlds that would break lesser species in hours. The settlers had gathered in a hidden ravine, a small group of people who had survived the first attacks by hiding and avoiding contact with the alien swarms. When the Deathworlders approached, the settlers' eyes widened in disbelief. Most of them had assumed that no one would respond to their cries for help. Their hope had almost vanished. Now the humans had arrived, armored, unshakable, and ready to fight. Hensley lowered herself to the settlers' level and smiled gently. "We're here to help," she said. "Stay calm and follow our instructions. We'll get you through this." "We didn't think anyone cared." "They adapt quickly, but we adapt faster." Toxic gases rose from the soil, forcing them to rely on their environmental suits for survival. Each team member understood instinctively that the forest was as much a weapon as it was shelter. After hours of cautious movement, the scouting group spotted the aliens for the first time in daylight. They were hunting with frightening coordination, moving silently through the trees, their sleek bodies blending seamlessly with the shadows. They were faster than any human, stronger than any human, and relentless in their pursuit. But the Deathworlders were not ordinary humans. They had been trained to anticipate, to calculate, to manipulate the environment to their advantage. Hensley gestured for her team to halt. She studied the movement of the alien creatures, noting their patterns, timing, and hunting methods. "They are smart," she whispered. "Not as smart as us, but smart enough to survive. That makes them dangerous. We'll need to set traps and control the battlefield. Use the terrain, use the fauna, use anything that can slow them down or confuse them." Toxic spores from the forest floor were collected and released strategically to confuse the invaders' senses. Every element of the world became a tool in human hands. Meanwhile, the group escorting the settlers led them to a rocky plateau overlooking a narrow canyon. From this vantage point, they could see much of the surrounding forest and monitor any alien approach. The settlers worked alongside the humans, learning quickly and following instructions. Hensley watched them, impressed at how quickly people who had been terrified were adapting under guidance. Humans inspired hope, and that hope was as important as any weapon. The first real attack came just as the sun dipped below the horizon. The aliens, sensing the humans' presence, moved in coordinated waves, their exoskeletons reflecting the faint light. They came silently, quickly, and without hesitation. Hensley's team had anticipated this. Using the traps they had set earlier, the first wave of attackers was caught in collapsing rocks and entangled vines. Toxic spores disrupted their senses, causing confusion and hesitation. Hensley moved forward, using her suit's enhanced mobility to leap across the battlefield. She struck with precision, disabling the closest threats while avoiding direct confrontation when unnecessary. Each human acted like a single organism, their movements coordinated and instinctive. Where one moved, another followed in perfect timing. The aliens, though strong and numerous, were unable to predict the humans' actions. They had adapted to environments, but they had not adapted to humans. The settlers watched in awe as their rescuers fought with skill and determination. Fear was still present, but it was mixed with wonder. They had never seen creatures survive and manipulate a world so deadly with such grace and intelligence. The humans' ability to turn the planet itself into a weapon amazed them. Each strike, each maneuver was calculated, yet seemed effortless. Hours passed, and the battle subsided. The aliens retreated temporarily, regrouping deeper within the forest. The humans were careful not to celebrate too soon. Mara Hensley knew better than anyone that these creatures were resilient and adaptive. Victory could be temporary. Strategy, preparation, and constant observation were key. Hensley gathered her team. "They'll be back," she said calmly. "We've slowed them but not stopped them. We need to learn more about their behavior, their biology, and their weaknesses. Adaptation will win this fight." "I think I see something," she said, showing a small device that analyzed the alien physiology from afar. "Their movement patterns are linked to environmental factors. They are faster in open areas, slower in dense terrain. Certain chemical compounds in the forest affect their coordination. We can use that." No one else responded, but we did. That gives us the edge. Humans always find a way to survive, even in the deadliest conditions, and these aliens just found out why Earth's Deathworlders are feared. The aliens would return, and the humans had to be ready. Adaptation, speed, and resilience were their weapons. Fear had no place here. Only strategy and determination mattered. By the time dawn broke, the aliens had made another attempt. This time, Hensley and her team used a more aggressive strategy. Instead of waiting, they advanced into the forest, drawing the attackers into areas carefully prepared with natural hazards and human-made traps. The humans moved with uncanny coordination, striking from multiple directions, forcing the aliens into panic and disarray. Settlers joined when possible, guided by the humans' instructions. They were no longer mere survivors. They were participants in their own defense. The aliens, although intelligent, had underestimated the humans' ability to turn every obstacle into an opportunity. Terrain that would have been deadly to other species became a weapon in human hands. The swarm-like tactics of the aliens were ineffective against the adaptability and creativity of the humans. The battle ended with the aliens retreating once more, leaving behind injured comrades and bewildered observers. Hensley took a moment to check on her team, noting their minor injuries but also their unwavering determination. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "We've shown them we can survive here. We've proven the settlers are not helpless. The galaxy may ignore cries for help, but we never will. And now the aliens will start to fear us. The settlers are counting on us, and we will not fail. This planet is hostile, but we are humans. We endure, we adapt, we fight, and we survive." Now, with Earth's Deathworlders among them, they realized that survival was possible. The humans' determination was contagious, spreading courage through the small colony. As night fell again, Hensley surveyed the horizon. The storm clouds still roiled overhead, lightning flashing through the dense forest. Somewhere in that vast, dangerous landscape, the alien forces were regrouping. But the humans were ready. Every obstacle the planet presented had been anticipated, every danger accounted for. The settlers were safe for now, their morale strengthened, and the Deathworlders had demonstrated the essential truth of their kind. Where others see death, humans see opportunity. And in that dangerous, alien wilderness, Mara Hensley and her team prepared for the next attack, knowing that the key to survival lay not in technology alone, not in numbers, but in the human ability to adapt, endure, and overcome. The galaxy might have ignored the distress call, but the humans had not. They had arrived, and their presence alone had begun to shift the balance. By the time the first light of the new day touched the jagged mountains, Mara Hensley could almost see it in the settlers' eyes. A flicker of confidence, a spark of hope, and the understanding that they were no longer alone. Earth's Deathworlders were here, and as long as they remained, there was a chance, just a chance, that the planet could survive. And in the silence that followed the storm, as the humans fortified their positions and studied their enemies, Mara Hensley knew that this was what it meant to be human. To respond when no one else would, to endure when survival seemed impossible, and to rise above the chaos of the galaxy, one impossible world at a time. The forest seemed quieter than usual at first, but Mara Hensley knew better. The aliens were observing. They were calculating, waiting for an opening. The Deathworlders had learned their patterns. When they retreated, they weren't defeated. They were studying, preparing, adapting. Humans thrived in unpredictability, but even they had to respect the intelligence of their opponent. Hensley gathered her team near a ridge overlooking a wide expanse of jagged terrain. The settlers were tucked safely behind fortifications, still shaken but more confident after the previous encounters. Hensley knew morale would be crucial. Fear could spread like wildfire in such a hostile environment. Humans adapted, but even the strongest needed hope. "We've slowed them down," she said to her team, "but that doesn't mean they've given up." "Lyra, what did you find last night?" "If we can force them into environments that favor us, we can control the fight." The planet itself became an ally. Toxic swamps were subtly rerouted to block paths, cliffs were rigged to collapse under weight, and predatory fauna were carefully guided toward alien patrol routes. Every aspect of the world was leveraged to give the humans an upper hand. As the sun dipped low, the first wave of aliens emerged from the forest. They moved quickly, attempting to flank the humans' fortifications. Hensley's team remained hidden, observing their approach and adjusting traps in real time. The aliens had learned some of the humans' patterns from the previous battle, but the humans had anticipated this. They were always one step ahead, adapting faster than the enemy could predict. The first strike was subtle but devastating. Rocks tumbled from cliffs, cutting off escape routes. Sharp vines entangled the alien scouts, slowing their advance. Toxic spores disrupted their coordination, causing confusion and hesitation. Hensley's team moved like a single organism, striking from multiple directions with precision and timing that left the aliens struggling to respond. From the settlers' vantage point, it was almost impossible to follow. One moment the humans were in one place. The next, they seemed to appear from nowhere, striking, retreating, and reappearing in a different location. It was terrifying but awe-inspiring. The settlers began to see the truth. Humans were not just fighters. They were survivors in their purest form, capable of adapting to environments that would kill any other species. Hours passed, and the first wave of aliens was driven back, retreating into the forest. Hensley did not celebrate. She knew the battle was far from over. The aliens were persistent, and the next attack would likely be stronger, more coordinated, and more deadly. She called a brief meeting with her team. "They're learning from their mistakes," she said. "We need to stay unpredictable. We need to adapt faster than they can, use every tool the planet gives us. Every plant, every rock, every storm. They cannot out-adapt humans in our own environment. The aliens are affected by Earth bacteria. Certain microbes in our systems make their senses malfunction. If we use this carefully, we can disorient them completely. Prepare small squads to deploy controlled microbes near their next approach." The settlers, trained under careful supervision, learned to move quietly and react to threats without panic. They were no longer helpless. They were beginning to understand human methods, observation, adaptation, and precision. When the aliens attacked again, it was a different kind of battle. Hensley's squad had forced them into a narrow canyon, where rocks, vines, and toxic spores worked in perfect harmony. Small groups of humans struck from above, using the canyon walls for cover. Alien movements faltered as the microbes and environmental hazards disrupted their coordination. Hensley moved with calculated precision, taking out threats with minimal effort. Her team acted seamlessly, each member anticipating the other's moves. The aliens, though fast and intelligent, were overwhelmed by humans who could think on multiple levels simultaneously: terrain, tactics, timing, and biology. Every encounter was a lesson in survival, every strike a demonstration of human ingenuity. By dawn, the canyon was quiet again. The humans had survived another night, and the aliens had retreated, leaving behind the fallen and the injured. The settlers, watching from their fortified plateau, whispered in amazement. Humans were not just fighters, they were teachers, leaders, and symbols of hope. The aliens had underestimated them, and it was already costing them dearly. Hensley gathered her team for a debrief. "They're learning to avoid traps," she said. "But they cannot adapt as quickly as we can. We control the battlefield. Every obstacle, every hazard, every moment works in our favor. We survive because we think differently, we move differently, and we endure where others would break." "You make it look easy, but it's impossible. How do you do it?" "That is what makes humans different." They exploited weaknesses that other species would never have noticed: terrain preferences, chemical sensitivities, and coordination flaws. During a particularly fierce attack, Hensley's team used the settlers in a coordinated defensive maneuver. The humans and settlers moved together, creating a dynamic web of obstacles and attacks that left the aliens confused and injured. Rocks, spore clouds, and vines worked in concert with the humans' precision strikes. The aliens faltered, giving the humans a decisive advantage. In the aftermath, the settlers were no longer passive witnesses. They had learned, adapted, and survived. The humans had turned a hopeless situation into a controlled battlefield. The aliens, who had assumed an easy victory, were beginning to understand the true danger of Earth's Deathworlders. Hensley observed her team as they repaired equipment and reinforced fortifications. Each member was focused, alert, and ready for the next challenge. They were humans, and humans did not quit. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. Even in the deadliest environment, they found ways to thrive. That was their strength, their secret, and their warning to the galaxy: never underestimate humanity. The settlers approached again, this time with less fear in their eyes and more confidence. "We can help," Eric said. "We've learned how to move, how to hide, how to survive. We want to fight alongside you." "You won't be alone. Humans never leave others behind. We survive together or we don't survive at all. Today, you've learned the first lesson. Adaptability wins battles that strength alone cannot. Tomorrow, we will teach you more." They had not anticipated the humans' resilience, creativity, or the settlers' newfound courage. The battlefield was ready. Humans and settlers together, using every advantage the planet offered, would face the next wave with confidence. Hensley looked out over the canyon, the toxic clouds swirling around the jagged peaks. She could feel the weight of the galaxy's indifference pressing down, the silence of species that had refused to answer the distress call. But it did not matter. Humanity had arrived. They had shown that survival was possible even where others would die. And as the first signs of the approaching aliens appeared on the horizon, Hensley's team moved into position. Every trap, every hazard, every calculated maneuver was ready. They would strike with precision, adapt to every change, and endure where the enemy could not. This was what humans did. They survived impossible worlds. They adapted to deadly conditions. They fought not just to win, but to prove that their species could thrive where no one else dared to step. The aliens were coming, and they would soon learn why the galaxy feared Earth's Deathworlders. The night was darker than usual, the storm clouds heavy with electric energy. Mara Hensley stood on a ridge overlooking the forest, watching the movement below. The aliens had regrouped. Their attacks were more coordinated, more violent, and more relentless than before. They had learned from their previous encounters with the humans, but humans had also learned. Adaptation had always been humanity's greatest strength. Where others failed, humans survived, and now it was time to turn the tide. Hensley's team moved silently through the forest, weaving between the twisted, alien trees that seemed to grasp at them as they passed. Every step had to be precise. One misstep could alert the aliens to their position, ruin the traps, or put settlers in danger. The humans had spent days studying the aliens' behavior, analyzing their weaknesses, and preparing the battlefield. The forest itself was part of their strategy, every root, vine, and cliff face accounted for. "Check the perimeter," Hensley ordered. "Make sure the traps are ready. The settlers are counting on us, and I don't intend to let them down." They were no longer helpless victims. They were participants in their own survival. Hensley crouched beside Lyra, who was adjusting one of the microbial dispersal devices. "Everything set?" she asked. Lyra nodded. "Yes, the spores are concentrated enough to disrupt their senses, but not so much that we risk the settlers. Once the aliens move into the canyon, we release them. It should create confusion and slow their coordination." Their speed and coordination were impressive, but the humans were ready. Hensley signaled and the traps were activated. Rocks tumbled from cliffs, vines snared the flanks, and toxic spores wafted through the narrow canyon. The aliens faltered, disoriented by the sudden obstacles and chemical interference. Hensley and her team moved through the chaos with precision. Each strike was deliberate. Each movement was calculated. The aliens, though formidable, could not anticipate the humans' adaptability. Where they expected resistance, they found strategy. Where they relied on speed, they encountered obstacles. The humans had turned the forest itself into a weapon. From their lookout, the settlers watched in awe. Fear was still present, but it was tempered by amazement and a growing sense of hope. Humans could endure what others could not. Humans could turn the deadliest world into an ally. The settlers had survived this long because the Deathworlders had arrived, and they had learned quickly that survival depended on more than courage. It depended on skill, observation, and adaptability. Hours passed, and the first wave of aliens retreated into the forest. The humans regrouped, checking traps, tending minor injuries, and reinforcing fortifications. Hensley knew the battle was far from over. The aliens were persistent, and their numbers remained significant. But for the first time, the humans had the upper hand. The aliens were reacting to human strategy, not the other way around. As the humans prepared for the next assault, Hensley gathered her team. "They're learning from us, and we're learning from them," she said. "This is how we win. Adapt, strike, and endure. Use every part of the environment. Predict their movements, exploit their weaknesses, and never give them a chance to recover. Humanity doesn't back down from a fight, and we won't start now." The effect was immediate. Their movements became erratic. Communication between them faltered. The humans struck with coordinated precision, cutting them down systematically. The settlers participated where they could, guided by the humans' instructions. They created barriers, activated traps, and lured smaller groups of aliens into prepared kill zones. It was exhausting, dangerous work, but it was effective. The aliens, who had assumed easy prey, were now being outmaneuvered. Each retreat, each mistake, and each confusion reinforced the humans' advantage. By midday, the aliens had suffered significant losses. They were stronger than many opponents, but humans did not rely solely on strength. Humans relied on intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to use every tool at their disposal. Mara Hensley observed the battlefield with satisfaction. Every move, every calculation, every adaptation had paid off. The humans were controlling the fight. Lyra approached, her device showing real-time analysis of alien movement. "Their coordination is breaking down faster than we expected. If we push now, we can force a full retreat." They struck from unexpected angles, forcing the aliens into traps and hazards they could not navigate. Predatory fauna, carefully guided by the humans, added to the chaos, attacking isolated aliens and cutting off escape routes. Every element of the planet was being used strategically. The settlers followed, taking up positions where they could contribute without risk. They reinforced barricades, provided cover for injured humans, and relayed information about alien movements. For the first time, they were participants, not just observers. They had learned the humans' methods, and their courage and adaptability made them a force to be reckoned with. The aliens' retreat became chaotic. Confusion, fear, and injury slowed their movements. The humans pressed forward, using every advantage, and drove them deeper into the forest. By evening, the aliens had retreated far from the canyon, their numbers diminished and their morale shaken. The humans had not just survived, they had dominated. Hensley took a moment to address her team and the settlers. "This is what humanity does," she said. "We respond when others ignore. We endure when others fail. We adapt when the odds are against us. Today, we have shown that Earth's Deathworlders can survive and thrive where no one else would dare to tread. Remember this. We do not rely solely on strength. We rely on intelligence, adaptability, and determination. That is our greatest weapon." They had survived days of terror, and their confidence had grown. Humans had not only protected them, they had taught them how to survive. Hope was no longer fragile. It was strong, grounded in the skills and resilience the Deathworlders had imparted. As night fell again, Hensley and her team moved through the forest to monitor alien movement. The storm continued, but it no longer seemed threatening. It was a tool, a cover, and a reminder that humans could endure any challenge. The aliens had underestimated them, and the humans had adapted faster than they could respond. Hensley paused on a ridge, looking at the distant horizon where the aliens had retreated. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The galaxy may ignore cries for help, but we never will. And now, the aliens will know what it means to face humans who adapt, endure, and fight against impossible odds. Humanity had taken a world designed to kill and turned it into a battlefield where survival and victory was possible. The settlers watched from their plateau as the humans prepared for the next day. Fear had been replaced by determination. They had learned that survival depended on adaptability, courage, and strategy. The Deathworlders had not just saved them, they had taught them how to endure. Hensley walked among her team, checking equipment, reinforcing traps, and ensuring that every detail was accounted for. She understood that the next encounter would be critical. The aliens would adapt again, and the humans would have to respond faster and smarter. But for the first time, the humans held the initiative. The aliens were reacting, not controlling. As the night deepened, Hensley looked to the stars above the storm clouds. The galaxy beyond was silent, indifferent. No one had responded to the distress call, but here on this hostile world, humans had arrived. They had adapted. They had endured. They had survived. And in doing so, they had begun to change the way the galaxy would see them forever. The storm raged on, lightning illuminating jagged cliffs and twisted forests. The aliens were regrouping, planning their next attack, unaware that the humans were always one step ahead. Mara Hensley and her team prepared quietly, confident in their strategy, their training, and their ability to survive. The Deathworlders had turned the planet itself into a weapon, and nothing the aliens could throw at them would change that. By dawn, the humans were ready again. Every trap, every hazard, every strategic point had been checked and reinforced. The settlers had learned the basics of survival and defense. And as the first signs of the approaching aliens appeared, Hensley's team moved into position, ready to strike with precision, patience, and adaptability. The battle was far from over, but the humans had the advantage. They had learned, adapted, and endured. And now they would teach the aliens a lesson they would not forget. Earth's Deathworlders did not back down. They did not surrender. They survived and they thrived where no one else could. The forest was eerily quiet as dawn approached, the storms having faded into a low mist that clung to the jagged rocks and alien trees. Mara Hensley surveyed the terrain from her ridge. The aliens had regrouped again, and their numbers, though reduced, were still dangerous. But the humans had grown stronger too. They had adapted. They had learned the environment, learned the enemy, and learned how to survive and fight together. Today would be the day they turned the tide completely. Teams, spread out, Hensley commanded. The goal is total control. We drive them back or eliminate them. Every human, every settler, every resource counts. Remember, adaptability is our weapon. Anticipate, react, and strike. Humans survive where others fail. Narrow canyons, jagged cliffs, and twisting forests created a natural labyrinth. The humans had prepared it carefully. Traps were set in choke points, toxic spores strategically placed, and natural predators subtly guided to interfere with alien movement. The aliens were strong and fast, but their predictability was their weakness, and the humans were masters of adaptation. The first wave of the alien attack began in the late morning. The creatures moved with precision, attempting to flank the human positions. Their speed and coordination were impressive, but they had not accounted for the humans' intelligence and preparation. Mara signaled, and the microbial dispersal systems were activated. Clouds of spores drifted into the aliens' path, disrupting their senses and communication. Chaos erupted. Hensley's squad struck immediately, moving through the mist with precise coordination. Every human acted in sync, anticipating the aliens' reactions, exploiting every opening. Rocks fell from cliffs, vines ensnared attackers, and natural predators intercepted isolated units. The aliens faltered, confused by the combination of human strategy and environmental hazards. The settlers took up defensive positions and assisted where possible, reinforcing barricades, guiding weaker aliens into traps, and tending minor injuries. Their confidence and newly learned skills made them more than just bystanders. They were an integral part of the human defense. The battlefield had shifted. The humans were not reacting anymore, they were dictating the fight. Hours passed, and the aliens' movements became more desperate. Mara's team pushed forward, using every advantage the planet offered. Narrow paths, hidden cliffs, and toxic swamps turned the environment into a weapon. Lyra's devices tracked alien coordination, revealing weaknesses that the humans could exploit in real time. Every mistake the aliens made was met with immediate and precise counteraction. Hensley paused to survey the progress. Her team had gained a significant advantage, but she knew the aliens would not give up easily. Persistence was their strength, and desperation would make them more dangerous. The humans had to be vigilant, calculating, and unyielding. One mistake could be fatal, but the Deathworlders thrived in such conditions. They had been trained for this, evolved for this, and now the battle was theirs to win. The second wave of aliens came at midday, moving in tighter formations and with more aggression. Hensley signaled for the second phase of their plan. Microbial dispersals and environmental hazards were deployed in tandem, creating zones of confusion and disorientation. The aliens, now impaired and panicked, were funneled into narrow corridors where human marksmen and strike teams waited. The settlers played a crucial role. They guided injured aliens into preset traps, activated barricades, and assisted with communication between teams. Fear had been replaced with courage, and determination had replaced doubt. The humans and settlers worked together seamlessly, a living demonstration of adaptability and unity. By afternoon, the alien forces were significantly weakened. Their attacks had lost cohesion, their speed and efficiency disrupted by the humans' coordinated strategy. Mara's team pressed forward, striking decisively and systematically. The battlefield belonged to the humans. Where once they had been on the defensive, they now dictated every movement, every engagement, every victory. Hensley knew it was time to deliver the final blow. All teams converge on their main group, she commanded. Use the terrain, use every trap, every advantage. We finish this today. We survive, we adapt, we endure, and we win. Chokepoints were used to maximum effect, natural hazards amplified by human strategy, and microbial clouds disrupted their senses and communication. Panic spread through their ranks. Their persistence was admirable but futile. The settlers joined in the final phase, guided and protected by the Deathworlders. They activated traps, guided aliens into kill zones, and helped maintain the humans' control over the battlefield. For the first time, the settlers were active participants in the victory, a demonstration of how humans could teach, lead, and inspire others. The final confrontation was swift and decisive. Mara's squad engaged the remaining alien leaders, striking with precision while avoiding unnecessary risk. The aliens' coordination collapsed entirely. One by one, they were neutralized or forced to retreat, unable to regroup or adapt fast enough to the humans' ever-changing tactics. The battlefield fell silent, except for the distant rustle of the forest and the settling mist. Hensley exhaled slowly, surveying the aftermath. The aliens had been defeated, their morale broken, and their forces scattered. The settlers, exhausted but alive, looked to her and the Deathworlders with gratitude and awe. They had survived impossible odds, and it was because humans had arrived when no one else would. "This is what humanity does," Hensley said quietly to her team. "We respond when others ignore. We endure when others fail. We adapt when the odds are against us. Today we have shown that Earth's Deathworlders can survive and thrive where no one else would dare to tread. Remember this. Humans do not rely on strength alone. We rely on intelligence, adaptability, and determination. That is our greatest weapon." Hensley gathered her team and the settlers on a ridge overlooking the battlefield. The forest was quiet now, the mist drifting lazily through the jagged peaks. The aliens had retreated far into the unknown regions of the planet, their numbers reduced and their confidence shattered. Humanity had demonstrated its resilience, intelligence, and ability to adapt to any environment. "Look at what we've done," Hensley said. "The galaxy may ignore cries for help, but we never will. This planet is hostile, but we survived. We adapted, we endured, and in doing so we proved that humans are a force to be respected." It had become a tangible force built on the lessons they had learned and the courage they had witnessed. Humans had not only survived, they had inspired. Hensley turned to her team. "Prepare for extraction and resupply. The settlers are safe, but this planet remains dangerous. We will stay vigilant. Adaptation is continuous. We endure and we thrive." That is humanity. It was guaranteed by intelligence, preparation, and the human capacity to adapt. By evening, the human forces had secured the main settlement, repaired damages, and ensured that every settler understood the basics of survival on this hostile world. The Deathworlders had achieved something remarkable. They had not only defeated a dangerous enemy, they had transformed a terrified, passive colony into a capable, hopeful community. The planet, once a symbol of death, had become a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Mara Hensley stood atop the highest ridge, looking at the horizon. The stars above were silent, indifferent, but the humans had made a mark. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to survive where others would fail. The settlers looked up at her, eyes filled with gratitude and awe. They had witnessed the true power of humanity, the ability to endure, to adapt, and to thrive in the most hostile conditions imaginable. The storm clouds had cleared, leaving the sky tinged with the light of distant suns. Hensley could feel the weight of the galaxy's indifference pressing down, but it no longer mattered. Humans had responded when no one else would. They had survived impossible odds, adapted to deadly conditions, and inspired hope where there had been none. That was their power. That was their legacy. That was humanity. As the first signs of the aliens' distant retreat vanished from the horizon, Hensley allowed herself a small smile. They had done what no one else would. They had shown the galaxy that Earth's Deathworlders were more than survivors. They were masters of adaptation, endurance, and strategy. Humanity had arrived, and in doing so, had forever changed how the universe would view them. And as the stars sparkled silently above the jagged alien landscape, Mara Hensley knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with threats and challenges no other species could handle. But humans would survive. Humans would adapt. Humans would endure. And wherever survival seemed impossible, Earth's Deathworlders would be there to prove that the impossible could be achieved.